Welcome to Luminol on the Wall.
Yeah, welcome, guys.
Yeah, welcome.
And hey, Becky.
And hey, Bev. Nice to see you as always.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, my pregnant sister.
Who does not have gestational diabetes.
What?
So,
I know, we had you fooled. We were also fooled.
The preliminary test was positive, but then when they really did the 2-hour glucose tolerance test, it was negative. So, I'm pretty happy about that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
It was stressing me out a little bit.
Yep.
So,
better to not have the beaties.
that is the truth.
Yeah.
So, welcome to our sister chat, where we're going to just catch up with each other and then get into a case that will definitely leave you with a lot of unanswered questions, but will provide a lot of opportunities for speculation. And boy, do we love that.
Oh, yeah. You know we do. If you've been listening, we love a good speculation.
That's right.
That's right. All right, well, getting into our sister chat. Bev.
What?
I'm going to do a little bit of bragging today.
Oh, okay.
And, I mean, I have mentioned this, but it's just so brag-worthy that I have to mention it here.
Oh, I wonder if I could guess. Is it about your spin?
No, but I could brag about that as well.
Oh, you just have a lot to brag about. Okay. Let's ignore the spin brag, and let's go on to the brag you are wanting to discuss.
Thank you. Yes. So, went to my friend's birthday party this past weekend.
Yeah.
And as some of our listeners know, I am in a women's pinball league.
Yeah.
This weekend, I went to a birthday party that was a pinball tournament, right? And it was for a little cash prize. And before I left, Jamie says, "Hey, Becky, like, go try and win first place. Like, win the cash." And I was like, please, I am not going to win. Like, no.
Yeah, like, I'm playing with experts here.
Yeah, like,
much.
They're amazing pinball players. Like, no way. Yeah. So I go, and I'm just having a good old time. You know, I recognize that I was having some really good games, but so were a lot of other people, right? So the end of the night wraps up, and we look at the standings. I, Becky, second place of like 22, 23 people. Everyone was so shocked. My good old friend Marcy.
Everyone was so shocked.
They were. It was hilarious. I was shocked. I thought it was going to be like 12th, 13th. That's like my average.
Jamie gave you the good juju.
Yeah, he did. And so Marcy, as she's like tallying everything up, she's like, "Hey, Becky, hold on to the money. Give it to the second place prize winner." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. I guess I'll just keep the cash then." And she looks at me. She's like, "Becky, you can't do that."
Oh, no, she didn't.
Yeah. And I was like, "Why?"
I'm of little faith.
Yeah. I was like, "Why? I'm in second place." And she's like, "Oh, well, give me that back. Someone else will give it to you."
Oh, really? That's
yeah.
funny.
And my friend Sonia was like, "How did you get second, Becky?"
Yeah, they're just like dumbfounded. They're like, "How did you beat us? What is happening in the world?"
I was having some stellar games. Like, I really was. I was so proud of myself. But then I went to pinball last night, and I can assure you the games were...
It was a fluke.
It was a fluke. I did very poorly last night.
So it's a small brag.
I guess it's a very small brag, but I guess I just need money on the line.
There you go.
To do well. So
everyone needs a good motivation.
Yep. And then to be clear,
not only win pinball, but also to commit murder. Just saying.
Wow, Bev.
Well,
I mean, you're
not
wrong.
A good motivation, but you know, we're all motivated by
something.
Yes. Some rage.
Some
greed. Some money. Literally, Becky.
Love, jealousy. See?
These are all main
motives in life.
Yeah.
With good and bad outcomes.
True.
Mine was, I was able to pay for the gas that I had to put back in Mom's car because I was borrowing it.
Nice.
You know, the weather was so shitty. So, you know, won enough to replace that. It was good.
I love that for you, Becky.
Yeah, I was happy. And just to make another quick brag, I guess, since Bev brought it up, I wasn't even thinking about it.
Oh my God, here we go.
My 20-minute spin time or output beat my personal best. So I was feeling pretty good about myself and just kicking ass. Thanks, Tunde. She's the best. The best spin instructor ever.
Yeah.
So thank you.
So you got a lot to brag about.
Yeah. What do you have to brag about? Nothing. Just kidding.
You're really channeling that younger sister energy. That was revolting, Rebecca.
Now you know how I feel.
Well, I already bragged about it. I don't have gestational diabetes. I don't know. That's all I got. Like, I'm just happy.
Yeah.
That I don't have that. But other than that, I wish I could say I was like active, doing more in my life right now. But I really just like Wake up, work, come home, lay on
Sleep,
the couch.
eat, bed.
Yeah, so...
You know what? You're growing a human. Brag about that.
There we go. That's all I got, but it's like a pretty good thing.
Oh, yeah, for
So anyways, let's just like...
We're having
carry
winning
on.
weeks, and let's get to the case.
All right, let's get to the case. So Becky, tell us about it.
All right, today is actually, there's not a major conclusion to the case, so sorry if you hate those cases, anyone. I actually kind of do. But it is about a missing man. He lived in Calgary, but was from Lethbridge, Alberta. So, you know, that's where we're from. Well, Calgary. And our dad lives in Lethbridge, so it kind of hits close to home. But in 2019, he disappears. And there's some pretty suspicious circumstances.
But it has yet to be solved.
It has yet to be solved, so.
All right. So as you said, today's case takes us to Lethbridge, Alberta, and Pemberton, BC, as we talk about the disappearance of Marshall Iwaasa. So Marshall was born in Lethbridge on January 3rd, 1993. He grew up in a very loving family. He was surrounded by people who cherished him. And as he became an adult, he grew especially close to his sister Paige. They spent a lot of time together camping and traveling, and they even got matching tattoos. One of their favorite places to be was Hawaii, which ultimately matched Marshall's laid-back, chill vibes thing he had going on. He had a peaceful, quiet nature and would often keep his thoughts and feelings to himself, but he enjoyed being around people and helping others. In his youth and leading into adulthood, Marshall developed a strong interest in the tech industry. He was fascinated by computers and IT, and his friends frequently relied on his knowledge and expertise. He was the go-to person for fixing tech issues and was always willing to help.
Always handy to have someone like that.
Yeah, our dad's kind of like that, and it is nice when your computer gets bunged up, and you're like, Papa,
help me.
Please.
Please,
I know not what I'm doing.
Yes, and I don't want to pay for an IT service.
Yeah, so literally, like, they're pretty handy to have around. I was going to say helpful and handy at the same time. You see how that was all muffled up there?
I did see that.
Yeah. Either way, he was always willing to use his expertise to help others, and I think that's awesome.
Totally.
Now, around 2014, his sister Paige moved to Hawaii with her husband, and Marshall found himself with more time on his hands without his sister Bestie with him. And he often would take remote jobs that kept him away from home and his family for weeks or even months at a time. And because he was such a private person, he frequently took jobs without informing his family of his whereabouts, only getting in touch weeks later to explain where he had been. In addition to him kind of keeping a low profile while he was out working, Marshall was also the type of person to let his phone be disconnected or run out of minutes, so he could only communicate when he had access to the internet, which often made it difficult to stay in touch with him. Now we fast forward to about 2018, and Marshall gets accepted into SAIT, the Southern Alberta Institute of Technology, for their computer science program. He moved to Calgary and rented a basement suite from a family while attending school. He began his studies in the fall semester of 2018, and by the summer of 2019, he was working in a practicum setting in the computer science field. He had told his family that he was enrolled for the next semester at SAIT starting in September of 2019. So as far as Marshall's family was concerned, he was going to school in Calgary, starting again for a second year in September. However, over the next couple of months, Paige, his sister, found it harder than usual to reach him. And in late October and early November of 2019, she had repeatedly tried to get a hold of him to plan his annual Christmas trip to Hawaii. But when he didn't respond, she assumed he was just bogged down with finals or possibly couldn't afford the trip and was avoiding telling her that.
Yeah, that's like all like really logical things, right? Like some people do avoid in those scenarios.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
I'll tell them later.
Yeah, you don't want to disappoint somebody.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're embarrassed or something, right? Like
exactly.
It could be.
You know, and students typically don't have a ton of money, so, I mean, as if she would have totally understand, I'm sure.
Oh, surely. But she's kind of making all these excuses as to why she can't get in contact with him, right?
Yeah.
Like in her mind, she's just rationalizing it a little bit.
No, for sure.
But it was like after about a month without hearing from him, Paige called their mother, Tammy, and asked her to check on him in Calgary to make sure everything was okay.
Like a good sister.
And when Tammy finally got a hold of Marshall in mid-November, He told her he would come to Lethbridge because he needed to get some things from his storage locker, which he and Paige shared. And on November 17th of 2019, Marshall drove to Lethbridge and spent the evening with his mom, helping her with her computer. He ended up staying pretty late helping her, so Tammy suggested that he spend the night and leave in the morning. However, he was pretty insistent that he needed to get to the storage facility and then return to Calgary that evening. So he said his goodbyes and left for the storage unit, but arrived shortly after they had closed at 11 p.m. He attempted to use his entry code several times, but was unable to get in. The storage unit would not reopen until about 6 a.m. the following day. But instead of returning to his mother's house, Marshall waited near the storage unit, attempting to gain entry multiple times between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. And finally, at 6 a.m., he was able to get inside. He remained at the unit until about 8:30 a.m. before leaving, presumably to head back to Calgary.
It does make you think, why didn't he just go back to his mom's house, right?
One reason could be that he didn't know that it would open at 6 a.m. Maybe he was unaware of the hours of operation of that storage unit, so he just, why else would he keep trying to gain access throughout the night, right?
That's actually a good point, and that I did not think of, Bev.
Yeah, so maybe that's why.
Yeah.
But it is kind of weird to stay somewhere for 7 hours, repeatedly trying, whatever's in that storage unit you really, really need.
Mm-hmm.
I would at 11 p.m. be oh, I can't get it. I do need something from there. I'm going to go home until the morning, right?
Yeah.
What is the big rush? And, focus on opening this locker, throughout the night.
Yeah, and, the only thing me personally I could think of was, maybe he just didn't want to bother his mom after, leaving already. I don't know. I would just be yo, Mom, let me in.
Yeah.
It's locked.
Bang, 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 bang.
I have to wait till the morning.
Open the door, Mama.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would do, too.
Interesting, right?
Yeah, and it is kind of interesting that he was at that storage unit for about 2.5 hours.
Yeah, what was he doing in there?
What was he getting? What was happening, right?
Yeah.
So, anyways, it's kind of odd.
Yeah.
So, anyways, a couple days later, on November 22nd, Tammy flies to Hawaii to visit Paige. The following day, November 23rd, Tammy and Paige received a call from the Pemberton RCMP in British Columbia. Hikers had discovered Marshall's dark blue 2009 GMC Sierra truck burned to a crisp off a remote logging road near Pemberton. And the only way that the RCMP were able to identify it was through the VIN number.
Yeah, and they just got lucky that it wasn't damaged in the fire, to be honest.
Well, no doubt. And what's interesting is the truck had not been reported as stolen, and Marshall was nowhere to be found. So it's just lucky for the hikers that they stumbled upon it, right?
Yeah.
What adds a little bit more suspicion to the circumstance here is that Marshall's phone had been disconnected. So the authorities had no way to reach him. Now, is it totally unlike Marshall to have his phone disconnected? No. We know this. But it is a little bit odd that at the same time his truck is burnt to a crisp, that he cannot be reached. So that is why the RCMP ended up contacting Paige and Tammy. And what's also odd about this scenario is that the truck was found about 1,200 kilometers away from Lethbridge, which is about a 13 to 14 hour drive.
That's pretty far.
Yes. And the location where Marshall's truck was found was remote. It was 20 kilometers off the nearest highway on a logging road near the Felix Creek hiking trail close to Mount Currie. This hike is about 4 kilometers long with an elevation of 1,700 meters and leads to the Brian Waddington Hut, a basic cabin that requires online booking. At the time, this area was not on GPS or Google Maps and was more familiar to locals than to travelers. It was deep in the wilderness, and the trailhead was only accessible by a 4x4 or off-road vehicle. And Marshall was not known to travel this area or to be really familiar with it. And when he camped or hiked, he always went with friends, not by himself. So it is weird that he would know about the trail, that his vehicle would be found there at all, because as we've said, he's from Lethbridge, Alberta, lived in Calgary, Alberta, and this is a whole province over. BC is not even the same province as Alberta, so it's how would he know anything about this trail, right?
That is the question.
Yeah.
Like, if you didn't know this trail was there, like, if you weren't going there specifically, you might even just, like, go right past it. You might not even see it. That's how, like, in the boonies it kind of was.
Yeah, so the question kind of comes up, did he put his truck there? Or did someone known to BC put his truck there? Because it is burnt to a crisp. Why would someone burn their own truck?
Why? He had just finished paying it off. He was super proud of this truck. Like, this, if he had burned it, that's not typical behavior for someone who's, like, really proud of their first, like, really big purchase.
No doubt.
Yeah.
So in addition to it being a really remote area, the region is also known for its cold temperatures in November, along with being known to have a bunch of grizzly bears and black bears present, which may or may not have been hibernating depending on the weather. But still, we're kind of painting a picture of, like, a more, like, secluded, rougher, like, kind of, like, dangerous terrain, if you will.
Yeah.
Especially for people who aren't familiar with the area.
Exactly.
Now, upon learning this information, Paige and Tammy reported Marshall as missing in BC, Lethbridge, and Calgary. The Pemberton RCMP conducted a search using drones, foot patrols, and dogs, but there was no sign of Marshall. The only evidence was his burned truck. Now, near the vehicle, Marshall's belongings were scattered, but undamaged by the fire. These included an expired passport, multiple old and broken cell phones. Multiple? What?
Oh, I know.
A damaged laptop, a week's worth of clothing, and the shells of an Xbox and PlayStation. Now, some of the things that were not found near his vehicle, but could potentially be things that Marshall would need, were his contact lenses, his contact solution, a Mountain Hardware Scrambler 30 backpack, his state-issued Samsung laptop, his wallet, which was believed to be a Nixon wallet with a screen spot for a license, and his most recent phone, a pearl-colored Samsung Galaxy S6, were all missing, and they have never been found since.
Yeah.
Now, one of the old cell phones was confirmed to be Marshall's, but the ownership of the others were unknown.
Yeah, so they could have still been Marshall's, but they weren't able to confirm. Only one was confirmed.
Right.
So who knows?
Like, were they just, like, old phones that he had accounts for? Like, you know, we all get new phones after 2 years or 3 years or what have you. And most of us have a plethora of them in our drawers, you know? Or were they, like, burner phones and, like, maybe he was selling drugs?
Ooh, I mean, I have no idea, but all that I can find, Bev, was literally only one of those cell phones was confirmed to be his.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's just okay.
Unknown whose they were. Marshall's or someone else's. Who knows?
But there was just a gaggle of them.
Hello, my name is Kristen Rigadel, and I'm a licensed insurance broker across Canada and in the United States. But I want to ask you a question. Is life super predictable? No, there's always going to be curveballs in life, but there's 2 things that I can guarantee you. 1, we're all going to have to pay taxes, and 2, we're all going to die. I know, it's morbid, right? But it's true. And that's where life insurance comes in. Life insurance is a selfless act. At the end of the day, it's meant for your loved ones in the event you were to pass away unexpectedly. And not that money can ever replace us, but I always liked the idea of leaving some money behind for my brothers, whether that be for their college education, or a down payment on a house, or even just time off of work to grieve. Because the last thing I would want for my family is to have to go to work and pay the bills while they're grieving. And so life insurance gives you the peace of mind that no matter when you pass away, your loved ones are taken care of. With flexible plans, affordable premiums, and coverage that fits your unique needs, I do the shopping around for you so that you can get the protection without the hassle. Because taking care of your future doesn't have to be complicated. If you'd like to discuss options, you can send me an email at krigadel15lrxc@wfgmail.ca or give me a phone call at 403-785-7670 to learn more and get a free quote today so you can live tomorrow with peace of mind.
Yes, a gaggle.
All right, so we're going to take it back to the hikers who found the truck. The hikers, bless their hearts, took photos of the scene before reporting it to the RCMP. They're like, this is kind of weird.
Yeah.
I mean, to have the wherewithal to take photos, probably a good thing. At least, I think it would be.
Oh, for sure.
However, it took them a couple of days to report it due to the lack of cell service in the area. However, eventually, the hikers did send the photos to Marshall's family, as well as the RCMP. And by the time the police arrived, the scene had actually changed. So really, thank goodness for those hikers, right?
For sure.
Some items were missing, and others had been rearranged when comparing the hikers' photos to those taken by the RCMP.
Yeah, and so you kind of sit there and you're like, okay, how could this have happened?
Was it the bears?
You know, I mean, they're pretty mischievous and, you know.
Were they scouring through old cell phones and...
Need to make a call, damn it.
Yeah.
You know, or was it like the environment? Like, could there have been strong winds that just like, you know?
Around this time it was known to be cold, so winds are plausible.
That they are.
Or was it like someone returning to the scene of the crime and taking out what they thought were valuable... Sorry, I say scene of crime because I'm assuming there's a crime, but like, if it were someone that came back, it would probably most likely be a crime, but maybe they were taking some things away that they thought could provide valuable information to the RCMP, right?
Or, on another outlet, could it have just been some young punk hikers that are like, oh, I'm gonna just fuck around with this shit because there's a truck in the wilderness. What else are we gonna do?
Yeah, I mean,
that's
you
a
never
possibility.
know. People's curiosity could get the best of them.
True.
Or was it Marshall himself who decided to come back, and maybe he's like going off grid, never wants to be found, and he's like, oh, these are important.
I need this for my survival.
Yeah, there's a couple options here.
Yep.
Now, at the scene itself, Becky, when the police did come, they found potential fingerprints and DNA. However, a major challenge in this case was that the Pemberton RCMP, along with the Lethbridge Police Department, did not find the case suspicious, despite the family's concerns. So as a result, it was not labeled as a criminal case. And this classification of the case severely restricted the resources law enforcement could use in their investigation. So they were unable to test DNA or fingerprints, request Marshall's history regarding his schooling, banking, online and phone records, or obtain security footage from gas stations between Lethbridge and Pemberton, which must have really upset the family.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it could be, or it could provide, like, the answer to so many questions.
Yeah.
It also might not, but at least they would know.
Like, maybe check it out and just see if there's something suspicious, right? Like, I mean, you do have a vehicle that's completely burned to a crisp, and a young man is missing.
I don't know why that, like, every time I hear that, I'm like, how is it not suspicious?
Yeah.
I mean, okay, maybe Marshall did want to go off and never be heard from again. You know, some people literally want to go off grid.
Yeah.
Maybe that was the case. But at least you would know that maybe he was the one traveling.
Yeah, by himself.
To Pemberton area, right?
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting about this all is the family worked really hard to try and get that information that the police couldn't. And it turns out a lot of places, if you're not the police, don't want to just give that information. Because it's like, why would I?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that literally makes sense to me.
Including, though,
you also have to protect the privacy of people, like in videos and stuff. Like, you don't just...
But at gas stations.
Yeah, but you don't want to be known as like a gas station who's just like giving up like footage to any Joe Blow, you know? What if you're like hiding from some crazy person that's following you and they go into a gas station like, give me your footage. It's like, he went west on the road that way.
On the highway.
On the highway. I don't know. I was thinking I-95 and I was like, why am I thinking about an American road right now?
I don't know.
That is so weird, but like, anyways.
I don't know, Bevy.
I feel like it's a pretty famous road.
I mean, it is.
Okay, well, at least there's that.
Is it I-95? Yeah.
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 Correct us if we're wrong, but I think it is.
Sure. We'll go with it is.
Anyways.
But, I don't know, like, if I owned a gas station, Bev, and someone said, hey, like, our son and brother has gone missing. We found his truck burned to a crisp. Within these days, could we just see your security footage? We just want to see if it was him driving or if, you know...
if someone else
I
was.
personally would be like, hell yeah, brother.
So guys, if you want to do some sketchy shit and you see my sister behind the till of a gas station, run.
Or cover your
Don't
tracks.
do it, because she's willing to give up that video evidence to anyone.
Yeah.
She's like, if it could help you, yes.
Absolutely.
No, I get it, though. It's like you would want to be the person that helps a grieving family for, you know, their missing child.
Now, Bev, to boot, the family also had challenges with Sate as well, trying to give up information, which that one I understand a little bit more. It's his part. He's an adult. He's in school.
Yeah.
Can't just give out his grades or, you know, any student misconduct, anything that, who knows what was going on. But, like, you can't just give that away. Because what if they come back? Their privacy is breached. That one I fully get it. But they also, because this was not a criminal case, struggled to actually help the police as well.
Right, exactly. There was extreme limitations as a result of how they classified this.
Yeah, they actually didn't even allow the family to hang up missing persons posters on campus.
Ooh.
That one, I mean,
it
doesn't look good, I guess, but it was one of your students. Like, maybe
they're not here.
Right? Maybe his peers knew something or had some insight, something like that. So I was pretty shocked with that.
Yeah. That's just really unfortunate. And, you know, because of a lot of these limitations that the Iwaasa family was facing, they decided to hire a private investigator team to look into Marshall's disappearance. They were desperate.
Yeah.
And another silver lining came for the Iwaasa family in mid-2020 because a team from BC offered to take them to the vehicle site using their off-roading equipment. Since the location, as we mentioned, was extremely difficult to access, they had to wait until spring when the weather conditions allowed them to make the trip.
Yeah, that's why it took them so long to get there, because there was lots of snow, northern BC, you know?
Yeah, they had to wait it out a little bit.
They had to, unfortunately.
And when they finally were able to arrive at the scene of the burnt vehicle, one of the off-roading team members recalled seeing tools like bolt cutters and wires strewn off to the side. These were items that Marshall's family believed he would not have carried with him. It also appeared that some parts of the truck, including the steering column, were missing. Ultimately, their investigation confirmed that the truck had been deliberately set on fire.
Right, and accelerant was used to light that bad boy on fire.
And there was evidence of that.
Yeah.
And what's more, for the family, is just the whole trip of going up there with this team really confirmed just how isolated the area was and how navigating the terrain required prior knowledge of the location. Not every vehicle could access the site, and the entry point just could be so easily overlooked. So it just made the family suspicious, even more so, just seeing that for themselves.
Well, exactly, because if you, like, you know, if they assume that someone would have had to kind of known that area to get the vehicle there. And, like, they have body cam footage of this trek. Well, they actually take off-roading vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
They take the family, and I watched parts of it, and it is, like, hilly. There's, like, they're all in, like, massive Jeeps with, like, lift kits just to get through the terrain. And there's, like, little creeks they have to cross in their vehicles. Like, someone in just a normal vehicle, I don't think would intentionally drive through that. Mm-hmm. You know, mostly for fear of damage to the vehicle, to be honest. But this path to the hiking trail where Marshall's truck was like at the end of that part of the path.
So it was deep in.
Yeah, it was all the way in there.
Oh man, the sexual innuendos in those statements just was
sorry.
Was so much.
We're
I'm
sorry.
like, way deep. Yeah, you're like, all the way in. Yeah. Disgusting. What's disgusting? The words are we. I meant to say us.
And the answer is us. We are pervs. We can turn almost anything into a sexual innuendo, unfortunately.
Yeah, there you go.
We're sorry. We can't help it, but we...
No, we can't. If you knew our dad, you would get it. Just saying.
You would for sure get it.
Yeah. So now this is kind of where the case, or the family's investigation, I suppose, kind of takes an interesting turn. Mm-hmm. Because they learned that Marshall had not enrolled at SAIT for the fall semester of 2019, and that he had actually been placed on academic probation.
Now, this academic probation is according to Wikipedia.
Okay.
To be clear, I watched and listened to a bunch of interviews with his sister and mother, and neither of them had mentioned that. So I'm not sure if the interviews were before they found out or if Wikipedia is 100% true. I'd like to think they do their fact checking, but just to be clear, this is according to Wikipedia.
Well, when you think of Marshall's behavior leading up to this, like, you know, like where he's so obsessed with this storage locker.
A little more withdrawn.
A little bit more secretive almost, you know? Maybe his family wasn't getting the full picture. So is Wikipedia lying? Who knows? But it does seem to kind of fit.
Yeah, it does.
Now, what's even crazier is there had been no activity on his bank account since November 15th.
So that was 2 days before he went to see his mom.
Yes. And like, yeah.
So you would think if he had driven out to Pemberton area that he would have had to have stopped for gas multiple times.
Yeah, it's a 14-hour road trip and he's in a gas-guzzling truck.
That's right. He would have had to have. So, and that's why when these gas stations wouldn't give up any of their footage, it's like,
why?
Like, could he have maybe gotten cash somehow, paid in cash? Like, there's possibilities, but like knowing that there wasn't activity on his bank account, who paid for the gas? These are the questions that arise. And it, like I said, could have been Marshall, but maybe it was someone else.
Was it even him? Like, you know, was there a crime that was committed in Lethbridge or Calgary and then someone took his vehicle to
this remote area
to like burn it of any evidence? Like, could that have been what happened, right?
Well, it's damn well possible.
That's true, Becky. And I guess it kind of sucks because there's all these questions, not a lot of answers, and to top it off, the storage unit surveillance footage had been deleted before anyone knew that he was missing. So it was impossible to determine if he had been alone at the time that he was like rapidly trying to like open this storage unit or if he was under duress at the time.
For sure.
Now, as of 2015, Marshall Iwaasa remains missing. Did I say 2015?
You did.
God,
I'm like, he wasn't even missing then, Beverly.
God, I am. What is going on? I'm sorry, guys. That is 100% inaccurate and about 10 years ago. So as of 2025, this year, Marshall Iwaasa remains missing. His family continues to seek answers, remaining open to multiple possibilities, including the involvement of foul play, mental health struggles, or an unknown accident. And despite their persistent efforts, the case remains unsolved. So,
and it also remains not a criminal case.
Yeah.
As well.
So I guess it's good just to get the information out there. And if anyone listening does have any information, you can contact the Lethbridge Police Department at 403-328-4444. You can also contact Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477.
Yeah. Now, what I think is really awesome after listening to a bunch of interviews with Paige and Tammy is that they're really open-minded in regards to Marshall's potential activities. You know, why had he not gone back to school? Was it just because he was on probation? Was he on probation? You know, was he potentially
going through something?
You know, was his mental health poor? You know,
was he involved in criminal activity that maybe he was like
around criminals and bad people, right?
Yeah. I mean, if he was on probation, like you never know that maybe it could be like a sign or it could be indicative of him just making bad choices in his personal life.
Yeah.
And maybe that includes like working with criminals.
Maybe
drugs. Who knows, right? And they're open to hearing that even if it kind of like paints their son in maybe a more
like a darker light.
Yeah.
They're very open to it. So if you know something, if you went to school with Marshall, like anything, don't hesitate to offer up that information.
Yeah.
Because they recognize that maybe something was off, but in the odd chance that nothing was off and someone did something to him, they want to get to the bottom of it. They just want answers. Their son was loved either way, whether he was doing something a little illegal or maybe not so good. They just want answers.
Yeah.
The other one thing that we did not touch on, Bev, is that in Lethbridge, at the time, the crime rate had increased, and Lethbridge had just in 2020 been added to Canada's top 15 most dangerous cities. So there was a lot more crime going on. So is it possible, like you said, that something did actually happen in Lethbridge?
Right.
Right? So that's one thing to keep in mind in regards to this case.
All good information to have. Kind of a different take on our true crime podcast here, Rebecca.
Yeah, was there even a crime?
Yeah. But I think it's interesting to talk about these things, and it's someone who's local to our province, so it's always nice to bring awareness.
For sure, and I couldn't imagine how his family to this day feels. I almost think that not knowing anything,
stab to the heart, honestly.
On a daily basis, you're wondering, like, was he in pain? Was this by choice?
Yeah.
You know? Could we have helped? I'm sure all those thoughts go through his mind, because that would be... Or
through
their
his
mind.
Family's mind, yeah.
Yeah, because that's what would be going through mine.
Of course.
Could they have done anything?
And we have the utmost empathy and sympathy for his family.
Yeah.
So, either way, Becky, thanks for doing research on this case, and thanks for listening.
Thanks for sharing.
And just your weekly reminder to download our weekly episodes, follow us on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever streaming platform you listen to us on, and give us a follow on our social medias. You can find us at Luminol on the Wall. Can't wait till next week.